Are you all right? Loupe stiffened at the sound of a decidedly masculine voice. The deep tone rumbled down her spine, followed by a wave of heat that chased away some of the cold. A similar heat filled her cheeks, and she cursed herself for not paying better attention to her surroundings. For a split second her embarrassment overwhelmed her, but bit by bit a touch of icy fear joined it. She was alone and naked in the middle of the woods. Animals may recognize the wolf inside her, but a human wouldn't. Her heart pounded. "Breathe," she told herself. "He asked if you are all right. There's probably nothing to worry about." Grateful that her naked body was almost completely submerged, she turned in the water, without rising to reveal any more flesh. She raised her attention to the figure standing across the lake, her brain whirring to think of some excuse for why she was bathing in the forest surrounded by wolf pups. Her jaw dropped. The most gorgeous man she'd ever seen was standing at the edge of the lake. From her angle, she couldn't tell how tall he was, but he radiated strength. His soft brown hair and matching eyes, paired with a lean, muscled body, conspired to heat her blood. She wondered that the lake wasn't boiling around her. The clean cut of his snug trousers revealed thick muscles, and the jacket he wore cradled his broad shoulders nicely, fastening firmly down his stomach. The wind was so gentle here in the middle of the trees that there was hardly a breeze to stir the tails of his coat. Sunlight pierced the trees to reflect off the sword he held at the ready. He tracked the wolf swimming around her, his body tense as if prepared to leap in and defend her. An irrational surge of anger rose inside Loupe. She squashed it immediately. Anger was not an emotion she could afford to have, not when the wolf inside her constantly waited for an opportunity to escape. Thus far, Loupe had been able to hold it inside except during the full moon, but she was certain that too much of the wrong emotion could tip the scales in the monster's favor. "Not all wolves are dangerous," she said, finally managing to get herself under control. "It's only when they've been mistreated or threatened that they are forced to defend themselves." The irony of her words was not lost on her. The man's eyebrows shot up, and he contemplated her with renewed interest. He glanced at the wolf swimming around her, studying the beast for a moment. Finally he sheathed the sword at his side. "You're right," he agreed. "Wolves are not dangerous by nature. Forgive my assumption." His gaze moved to something behind her, and Loupe grinned as she heard 3 splashes. Apparently the pups had decided to join her after all. "You have quite a family going here." Loupe started to nod, but the poke of a tiny claw in the middle of her back startled her. She yelped and nearly shot out of the lake. Remembering her nudity in time to keep her from baring herself to the stranger, she stayed low in the water. If you wouldn't mind facing the other way?" she asked lightly, trying to ignore the increasing heat in her cheeks. Something shifted behind the man's eyes, as if he were actually taking a moment to consider her request. The thought that part of him wanted to refuse her, wanted to keep his eyes on her, made things low in Loupe's body tighten. She was almost disappointed when the man finally nodded. "My apologies. Yes, of course." He gave her his back. After only a second of hesitation, Loupe climbed out of the lake and went to where her clean clothes were bundled. Drying herself quickly with a small towel she'd brought, she kept her eyes firmly on the ground. Only after she was dressed did she raise her gaze to the stranger. "Thank you, monsieur."